Okay.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. So very happy to have you here with us today. Lesli Bytel here from lesliebytel.com. And as you know, I'm a business mentor and coach, and I help integrative functional nutritionists and dietitians really get clear on their strategy in terms of marketing and create a business that they love. So, I am really delighted today to have a special guest. We've got a great show lined up for you today on a topic that I think is really going to hit home. So, we are going to be talking about websites, a topic very near and dear to all of our hearts, right? And really excited to have a special guest with me today, Whitney Bateson. And welcome, Whitney. How are you today?
I'm great, Leslie. Thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have this conversation with you. So, websites, right? Like so many questions around websites crop up. And so today, Whitney Bateson, and Whitney is from Whitney Bateson Digital Strategy. We are going to be talking about the reasons dietitians and practitioners in general need an awesome website. And specifically, we're going to be delving into the 8 reasons you need a website in 2022. And I would say a client attracting website, right? Like that is the key. You want to attract the people that you love working with. And believe it or not, maybe, weed out the people that aren't a great fit for you. So
Yeah.
that is what an ideal scenario looks like with a website. So specifically, here's what you're going to take away from today's training. So Whitney and I, we're going to talk about the top 3 misconceptions that dietitians have about their websites that are holding their businesses back. Then we're going to go into why having a client attracting website is actually critical to your success as a business owner, where to start in the website creation process to minimize overwhelm and to help you get started quickly. So, with that in mind, let's jump into our awesome topic. So, welcome, Whitney. I'm so happy to be
Thank you.
reconnected with you today.
Yeah, I had so much fun the last time, so I'm excited for this conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, for those of you that maybe missed our last conversation with Whitney, Whitney, why don't you give everyone just kind of a snapshot of your backstory, a little
Yeah.
bit about actually where you're located. That's kind of a fun answer,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
A little bit about your background and, how did you end up, you're an RD, so how did you end up running a digital strategy company?
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting journey. So I am calling in and talking to you from Spain. I am a digital nomad. I run my business from countries around the world. And over the summer, I was bouncing around Europe, and in the fall, I'll be in Mexico. So moving around. I was working in school nutrition as a dietitian. So I started out my career in food service and school nutrition and really loved it, but found that I really gravitated towards marketing and communications and technology. And I liked making things look pretty. And I liked finding new ways to communicate trainings with our associates and making nutrition education and videos and things like that. But found that there weren't really enough resources for dietitians to make it accessible for us to leverage these new things like great graphic design or videos or websites to bring our messages home. And so that's really what spurred me to create my business, where I'm just 100% focused on helping dietitians reach their customers, make it easier and more comfortable and less confusing and overwhelming to deal with technology and marketing, because that can be really foreign. And then if you're working with someone who doesn't understand how dietitians think, it can be even more overwhelming. So I just love helping dietitians reach more customers and really get our ideas out into the world, through my business. So
Love
yeah,
that.
I've been
What
been
a
doing that.
what a
Yeah.
180-degree turn about, right? Going from, wait, did I hear you say school nutrition?
Yeah.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh, that's a huge shift. Huge
Yeah.
pivot.
Yeah. But I
Pretty
think
awesome.
it's an important, yeah, I think dietitians, I think it's really great for us to be in all corners of business and society, quite frankly. And I think that we can pick up different skills in our different positions. We don't need to think that just because I'm working as a dietitian as my job title in school nutrition, that I can't be branching out and doing different things. And I think I hear a lot of dietitians ask, how can I pivot into a new place? And I think you just need to be looking for those little hints and those little pieces and talking to different people along the way and creating those opportunities for yourself to branch out and do new things. And it's okay if you don't want to do the traditional path. And it's okay if you do, but you can still find ways to integrate new and exciting things no matter where you end up as a dietitian, I think.
Exactly. I love that. So let's go ahead and jump in.
Yeah.
So, do dietitians really need a website these days if they're trying to start or grow a business? So, regardless of kind of where they are in the process. It's probably a
Yeah.
rhetorical question given our
Right.
topic.
Yeah. Wanted to
But
level set it for everyone that yes, I think there is mixed advice out there, or there's some conflicting messages,
yeah.
or it can sometimes be a quick soundbite to say, oh, you can, get clients without a website. But there's
Pretty tough.
usually like, that asterisk there that's saying, but if you want to grow or something like
Right.
that, then you actually do need one. So,
Yeah.
I think a lot of dietitians think that they don't need one, but that's just not the case.
Do you still find that to be true?
That's the advice out there.
Some dietitians think that they don't need one.
Really don't need
Do you
one.
bump into that?
Yeah, it still definitely circulates in the Facebook groups too. I see
Okay.
people saying,
Interesting.
someone asking, do I need a website? And someone saying, I base my business on referrals. My website doesn't
Okay.
really get me many clients. So that kind of goes into the misconceptions piece that we'll talk about next.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's still definitely a
here.
belief. Maybe it's sometimes, when we're thinking about investing in a website, that little piece, that voice starts asking that question,
Yeah.
and that
True.
doubt can really undermine our efforts. So believe that you do need one. It's a right business decision to move forward
Yeah.
with a website.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. That I think that's a great point. Sometimes I see dietitians, starting with like a one-page website, and I actually did that myself when I first moved into this space. I functioned actually pretty well on a one-page website. I had, a good message. I had some decent copy. And the key, at least in my opinion, is that I had a great opt-in. So it really was a list building machine for me, even in the very beginning. So what are your thoughts around that? Like if someone is maybe on a tight budget, and just wants to get started, would that potentially be an option?
Yeah. And I think that's a really excellent point, is that we're not saying a website that has multiple pages
Yeah.
and 50 blog posts and complicated integrations. We're saying a presence on the web that is your own. It can be
Right.
one page, it can be 5 pages. And all the points that you made about it had a good message, it had good copy, it had an opt-in. That is what makes a website successful. But you need a place for those things, right? And so if you're just relying on Linktree to have your opt-in, to have different things, it's not giving that full detailed picture.
Right.
And so it is important to have the website. It just doesn't have to be a super complicated website, but it does have to be done correctly and have those things like an opt-in. If it's a single landing page and it's just a long narrative of why you became a dietitian and what you believe in, and a quick call to action of like, hey, do you want to buy? And then then you don't need that website, because that website's not going to help you.
It's not going to do anything.
Yeah. So
exactly. Yeah. And you bring up such an interesting point about, Linktree, which for those of you that don't know what that is, And Whitney, you can probably jump in and add to, my impression of Linktree.
Yeah.
It's basically what that is. I see a lot of people using it on Instagram, right?
Yep.
So like you get one place to put a link in Instagram, right? Like
Yeah.
one place. And a lot of times, we'll link it to what's called Linktree, and it's almost like a little
Like a
landing
table of
page.
contents. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very, yeah.
And you can then
Landing
just
page.
list a whole bunch of links.
Yep.
And I personally really had mixed feelings about that application because when you ask people, like you give too many options, you're less
Yeah.
likely to get any action, right? So
Yep.
I really I have mixed feelings about that as a tool. And the
Hmm.
other thing is, I just don't know how effective it is in terms of building your list. So,
Yeah.
moving people from Instagram, and really, guys, I know this is a side, a bonus, a little bonus
Yeah.
tip, right?
Yeah.
But really, you guys, you want to be using social media you want to move those followers onto your email list. And that is so, so very important. A lot of times people just don't think about that, but you do not own Instagram.
Yeah.
Anything can happen, right?
Yep. And
So you
has,
definitely, and
you
it
know?
has. Oh my God. I know. I hear the scary stories about just
Yeah.
like all of a sudden your account is locked and you have no idea why.
Yep.
So guys, just like really be very cognizant. Your strategy on Instagram is to increase your reach for sure. It's a great mechanism for that, but get those folks onto your list. So
Yep.
it's interesting. I guess I never would have thought of like maybe trying to use Linktree as a temporary substitute for a website.
Yeah.
But it
I've
sounds
had
like
that question
you had
asked of
that.
me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah,
Interesting.
it's right. I just wanted to kind of point that out, that does not substitute a website either.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All the
That
points you
that's
mentioned.
really super important.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously the answer is yes. Dietitians need a website in order to start or grow their business. And clearly it doesn't have to be like a 20-page site. It doesn't have to
Right.
be super complicated. And I can kind of speak to that. When I first started my nutrition practice, many years ago, I got like this super complicated website. I had shopping carts. I had like all this stuff on it. It was many, many, many pages long. And I just didn't need all that. So out of the gate, I spent a whole bunch of money, like a lot of money on this website. And I just felt like, gosh, in retrospect, I didn't need all those bells and whistles right away.
Yeah.
I think you can add those elements as you move forward. So that's why I kind of did a 180-degree
Yeah.
turn. When I
Yeah.
started
You're like
this
one
business, I'm like,
page.
I'm not doing that again. I'm
Yep.
going to do the opposite. I'm going to start with a landing page, and I'm for sure going to start with a great opt-in
Yep.
because I didn't do that the first time around. So
Yep.
live and learn,
Yes.
right?
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, those are the mistakes that we learn from.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. So let's jump in. What are some of those misconceptions about
Right.
websites, right? I think you have 3 misconceptions that you want to talk through.
Yeah. And so that first one, that social media can replace a website. So
Okay.
I'll talk about the reasons why that's not the case, but there are definitely a lot of business owners out there, and dietitians included, that social media can replace a website. And that's just
Okay.
not true. You still need that online presence. So
Okay.
um, number one. Also, that dietitians can rely on referrals and posting in directories like health profs and things like that to get
Mm,
clients, and that rely on that for their business in general,
mm,
for lead generation and clients and things like that. But the problem is that referrals and those kinds of things can be inconsistent. And as I'll cover later, they're not going to necessarily yield the same as success as if you were to combine some of those marketing strategies, because those are marketing strategies with a website that is really built to sell. So
Mhm.
they're not really a sales tool. They're just out there. Health Prof's profile is never going to feel like you. It's going to have the words and things like that, but it doesn't sell. A doctor is not going to sell your services necessarily. They'll give your card, but if there's no website for people to go to, they can't really know about you, and they're not going to move forward.
Right.
So that's the other misconception about using referrals and things like that. And then finally, just unfortunately, a lot of dietitian websites and business owners in general, not picking on just dietitians, is that the websites have just not been set up strategically, and they're
Right.
making a lot of mistakes. And so the advice in forums, like we touched on, is to avoid a website. But often it's because the websites that have been created a lot of times have not been built effectively. And so, the results end up happening of it's not yielding the results, and therefore my website is not useful. But it's that your website is just not effective and strategic yet. Once it is, then it can help you. So
Mhm.
there are mistakes that dietitians are making, and it's just leading them to not have effective websites. And I do have a masterclass that we'll talk about at the end
Okay.
that goes over that, because yeah, it's simple stuff, but it's stuff that we just don't necessarily focus on when we sit down and we're like, okay, we're going to create a website. So yeah, those
Oh,
are the
I
misconceptions.
absolutely. I can imagine. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're not trained in that way
Right.
to sit down and like map out that customer experience on a
Right.
website, right?
Yep.
So a lot of time it's hieroglyphics to most of us, right? In
Yeah.
terms of that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah,
And
especially when you're in it
yeah,
too. It's your business, so it's harder to do that as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk then about some of the reasons why an RD needs a website if they
Yeah.
want to grow a healthy business.
Yeah. So
I
the
think you have
first,
8, right? 8
yes, I
reasons?
have 8. So some of them I'll just touch on briefly because you've brought up some amazing points that I'll just underscore.
Okay.
But the first off is that it is a much more reliable way of communicating with your audience, the full picture of your business, because like we were just talking about Instagram, not only is Instagram not owned by you. So if Instagram shuts down, all those followers completely disappear. It's not like they have your phone number and they're going to text you and be like,
Right.
hey, can we stay in touch this way? Um,
I don't think they'd
Also,
even really notice,
no, probably
to
not.
be honest, right?
Sadly,
Unfortunately,
yeah,
but it's just the reality because it's just such a cluttered
it
environment
is.
now. So yeah, I doubt they're going
Right.
to notice.
Yeah. And to that point, too, only a fraction of your followers are seeing your content to begin with. So you
Mm,
may think that you're leading your followers through a very coherent story of, identifying the problem and the pain points. And then the next post is going to be about the solutions, and you're going to give your backstory. And, it's all going to paint this well rounded picture of yourself. That's just not the story that happens on social media. It's one post in a feed that someone might see every 2 weeks. So
right.
it's not giving that story that we need to tell to really connect with people. And it is crowded. They're seeing lots of different stories. So your website is that home that you can lead people into and welcome them and make them feel like they're being heard and seen in a more calm place,
Right.
frankly, instead of loud Instagram. Um, so yeah, that's reason number one.
Okay.
Um, and then reason number 2 is SEO, bringing
Oh,
traffic to your
right.
website. So having your website, up in Google, people are searching either for your services directly, or they're searching for an answer to a question they have. Your website is popping up. Your Instagram posts, and I'm picking on social, but if you're not doing social, then maybe you're relying on some other platform, so you're not even online. You need to be online, and
Mhm.
Google is going to be that 24/7 engine that is bringing people to your website without you even doing anything. You do the work up front, you identify the keywords, but then it just runs. So a website isn't going to replace any of those other platforms out there. And Google
Mhm.
is, we all know, it's extremely powerful. People use it all the
Right.
time. So We want to be found
So
in Google.
powerful. Yeah. And I definitely would support that because, you want to be the business that pops up like
Yeah,
on that first page when, when people are typing in a question, right?
right.
Or when
Yeah.
they're looking for help, you want to be
Yes.
that person that pops up. And without a website, it's really hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And other people will pop up
Other
instead.
people will pop up instead because, yeah, exactly. So the
Yeah.
SEO part is super important. And, that is another thing that I would just say you really want to make sure whoever you use as your website designer, you do want to make sure that they're tapped into. I know SEO is like a whole separate thing in of
Right.
itself, right? It's super complicated,
Yeah.
but to be honest, that is another area that I wish I would have been more on top of right away, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that part. Um,
Yeah.
it's just a lot easier to do it up front than like, years later go, oh, but wait,
Yeah.
I
And
need
oh,
to
we made
like
these
look.
mistakes that we
Right,
need
right.
to
So
clean
yeah,
up.
guys, take that one from me personally.
Hmm.
You want to make sure that you are working with someone that is, that knows what they're doing with SEO for the site.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. And
SEO is super important.
yes. And that's why I feel that a website really isn't complete without SEO. So we do include it in all of the things that we,
Right.
work with our clients on and our students. And
Uh-huh.
I have to say too, it is a spectrum of very complicated technical things, and you
Yep.
can go really far. And then also super basic things like just picking some keywords and making sure your pages are optimized for those keywords and
Okay.
just starting there. Because I think, again, we get that overwhelm of like, oh my gosh, SEO,
Yes.
and then
Right.
you're getting these emails from people, like someone, getting messages, oh, your website's not optimized for SEO, but it's
Right.
someone kind of feeling spammy. And so then you turn off all of it. But you can learn about keyword basics and how to identify some keywords. And then it's very easy to plug those into your website. And if that's even all you do, I would be a happy clam. Like,
Yeah,
that's a great first
absolutely.
step. Yeah.
I
And then you
love
can keep building.
strategies where they're relatively simple and you get a big bang for your buck, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I don't know a lot about the back end of websites, but like, naming pictures, right?
Exactly.
Like things
Yeah.
like that.
Yep.
From my understanding, can be really super effective and super, super easy, like
Right.
easy. Like I could do it. Right. And again, I'm
Exactly.
not like, super techy,
Yeah.
but
It's not
that
required
is
fancy
something I could even do.
coding. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So guys,
Yep.
SEO, super, super important. This is where you have an opportunity to potentially make money in your sleep, right? You need
Yep.
SEO to be able to do that, to be able to drive traffic to that site literally while you're asleep or on vacation or whatever it is you're doing. So
Yep.
love that one.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one. So, and then we touched on this one too. Reason number 3, your website is your salesperson. So, talking about getting sales and business while you sleep. So, Google is the mall that is, getting all the traffic coming in. And then your website is the salesperson talking to people about what you do and all of that. And then once they feel really good, they're finally bringing you to the cash register to close the deal. So your website is doing a lot of this heavy lifting of connecting with your customers and talking about your services. And that's where great copy really comes into play. I like that you mentioned that earlier, as far as, the basics of even having a one-page site, having the copy and spending your time and energy on making great copy, even if it's a
Yeah.
one-page site, that's super important. But I'll just mention again, people need more detail, and having referrals from doctors' offices are great. But if there's nowhere for them to go to learn more about you, it's going to kind of just drop off the cliff a little bit,
Right.
because, they need more. So,
Yeah.
that's really a big deal. It's the sales piece of your website. And even you mentioned, I forget if we were recording or not when you said this, but it was so key as far as, I think, yeah, identifying the people that are right for you and the
Yeah.
people that are not right for you.
Right. Yeah,
And
like, and
that's even
that's
a time
okay.
saver. Yeah. And it can save you time having those
Yeah,
people either be weeded in or weeded out.
right. Right.
So
And how do you do that? Just out of curiosity. I know it's a little bit of a tangent, but
no,
from your perspective.
yeah, I think personally it's about having the right copy that
Okay.
speaks to the
Yeah.
customer. So, for example, if you are a dietitian who works with gut health issues, but you really don't want to talk about weight loss and you don't want people coming to you about weight loss and you're tired of having discovery calls where people are just asking about weight loss, then your copy needs to talk about how you take a weight inclusive approach, and
Mhm.
while weight loss may be something that's a part of it, some people lose weight, some don't, and that's not a goal of the work that we do together. And really talking about that and not having problem points that are talking about weight gain or anything like
Right.
that, because we don't want to be attracting those people and all of that. And also you can have FAQs that also are helping people get some
Yeah.
questions answered and saying, will I lose weight on this program? And say, this is not a weight loss program. So those are just some examples of
Yeah.
how your website can be weeding people out by the copy you use.
So key. Yeah. And I would just add, and this is part of copy, of course,
Mhm.
clear messaging, right? Clear messaging that in terms of how I teach that, it's who, it's a couple of sentences, maybe even one sentence where you're including who it is you help,
Yep.
what are the problems you're solving, or what are the pain points that you're helping your
Yep.
clients to resolve,
Yep.
and a little bit of a hint in terms of what are some of those results you help to achieve.
That's so great.
So really just so important. And, guys, you got to be able to describe what you do, because the reality is nobody really wants to work with a dietitian just because it's fun, right? Because it's probably really not that fun to most people,
Yeah.
but they're in pain. So you need to meet them where they are by acknowledging where,
Yep.
the current set of circumstances.
Yep.
And you definitely want to you want to dangle what's possible for people, because that's
Yep.
what they want. That's why they'll, decide to move forward to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
So really just so critical is good copy and messaging.
Yep. That's so great. Yeah. So that's a big one. Your website is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you upfront with people when they're coming to your site.
Yep.
Um, so super important for a website to be doing that. And then number 4, you're going to love this reason. It helps you build your email list.
Oh,
Uh,
yay. Yeah.
so just everything that you said before, and just to underscore it even further, you know, when we're saying we want to bring people from Instagram to, or any social platform, to our email list, what we can be doing is, yes, you can have some opt-ins posted up on your Instagram and having different, you'd put the link in your bio just for that one post of
Mhm.
that lead magnet and things like that. But Instagram is moving so quickly and there's so many different things happening. So it's a really great idea to have a couple different lead magnets peppered throughout your site. You can have them rotating. So for example, especially, as your business evolves, you're probably going to find that there are resources that you're creating for your clients that would be helpful to give to potential clients. And
Mhm.
sometimes we think, oh, we're giving away too much. No, if you help people get an early quick win,
Yeah.
they're going to be much more interested in working with you for even bigger results and more support. So having a few different opt-ins, having a resources page
Mhm.
potentially, having a pop-up every so often, maybe you rotate that pop-up seasonally. In your blog posts, you have lead magnets that are relevant to the content that blog post is about. And it's okay to get people opting in multiple times. The more times you see someone has opted in, if they're like doing a collector's edition of your opt-ins and they've collected all 6 opt-ins that you
Yeah.
have, that's amazing. That is
Yeah.
not a bad thing at all. That means that they are just so bought into everything that you have to say at this point, and they're just getting closer and closer to that point of the next thing that you offer, they're going to take you up on it and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. That's such a common fear, is if I write an ebook, or if I have too good of a, like a freebie or whatever, that's going to backfire. And,
Yeah.
and I love addressing that because, well, first of all, it is super common. And the other thing is, I would just say to that, in addition to everything that you shared, Whitney, which is just so true, is, you guys are, I would just say, yes, to a degree, people work with you because of your knowledge base, for sure. But they really work with you because they want those results, right? And
Mm-hmm.
reading an ebook is not going to translate into results.
Yeah.
It just like it, I mean, maybe for a rare person out there, it
Yeah.
might,
Yeah.
maybe.
Right.
But for the most part, it's not about that. It's really about the support and the
Yeah.
personalization, the troubleshooting, the motivation, keeping people on track through that journey towards getting results. So yeah, I would just second what Whitney said about just like, don't get too worried about over delivering. Of course, you want to be strategic, right? It's
Yep.
not saying you want to spill everything,
Right.
but at the same time, with that freebie, you do want it to be super compelling. You want it to have a really juicy title.
Yeah.
And yeah, and just don't get too hung up on, oh, I'm giving away too much, because I would say it's the opposite, right? In most
Yeah.
cases. So you
Yeah.
deliver awesome content, you are going to develop that know, like, and trust, and you're going to create some fans out there for your
Yeah.
work. So
Yep. And it's happened for me. I invested in a course recently that I just really vibed with what this course creator was
yeah.
putting out there. He put an amazing free course together. It gave me a
Mm,
preview of what his paid course was going to be like.
okay.
And I was like, I'm sold. I
Okay.
don't need to know anymore. So, and I could have continued going with his free course and gotten results, but I was like, I want more. I am going to do this. So just to kind of help people understand the minds of our customers,
Right.
they want to get that feel of how you approach their problem and all of that. It also increases the perceived value of your services and of working with you. If you're putting out high value, really things that are creating even small results for people, they're going to see that you actually have really valuable things
Mhm.
out there, for them to buy into. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So
Uh,
good.
yeah. Okay. So reason number 5, and this is kind of talking about the link tree a little bit. It houses
Mhm.
all of your links for a full comprehensive picture of your business. So
Mm,
Linktree, whether you have 3 things in it or any of those platforms, I know there's many of them out there these days, and it does end up looking like a mini website sometimes, but it just kind of is like a jumble of lots of different things. And your website, we still want it to be optimized for mobile so that when people are viewing it on a phone, it's easy to scroll and navigate and all of that. But it's laid out in a way that leads people through a journey
right.
of, things that just putting a link somewhere is not going to do. And it just keeps things more organized. So that's
Yeah.
number 5. A website does that. Other places can't. And then number 6, it's a source of data and tracking. And this is really valuable, looking at Google Analytics and seeing how people are navigating your pages. So if you think, and this is now not comparing it to other platforms, but if you just feel that you can base off of referrals and things like that, you're missing out on getting some really great data of how people come to your site and what pages are most popular and what blog posts are most popular, and potentially in the future being able to retarget those people that come to your site with ads and things like that. So it's just a wealth of data
Mhm.
that you can't necessarily get from if you're not present online at all, or using some of these other platforms that are, like lead pages and things like that. Those are good for small things, but I wouldn't
Mhm.
say that they replace really a fully fledged website. Again, this is
No.
talking about like growing your business and really having a platform. Yeah. So
Good point.
so that's another one. And then these last two are a little less of these tactical things and a little bit more of like bigger picture. So, and this one I think is actually one of the most important. So reason number 7 is it's a source of pride and confidence. So
Mhm.
many of the clients that we've built websites for just say that they feel so much more confident promoting their
Mm.
business and just more confident in their business in general, because the whole process helped them get a clear understanding of their customers and going through the copywriting process and all of that. It just, if you do it correctly, you can't avoid getting clear on your business and all of that by the end of it. And I personally feel that, and I'm sure you agree with this too, it's mindset a lot in our businesses.
Yeah.
And if we are not confident, if we have a website sitting behind us that we feel embarrassed by, we feel it's outdated, we're not going to be sharing that with people. We're not going to be putting our hand up and saying, I have a website, I have a business. So whether you believe it, consciously or not, the lack of a website or having a bad website is going to hold you back just from putting yourself out there more in your business. So think that's one. And then the final one is it becomes this hub for your business. So for systems, for streamlining, it's where people can book calls. It's where people can get on your email list. Like I said, it's where data, tracking happens. It's where you can do all sorts of different things. You can have bigger, you can have membership, you can have blog, you can have all sorts of things. It's where everything lives, and it becomes a much more machine-like and streamlined and efficient thing. Especially, you and I were talking about, we love traveling, we love running our
Yeah.
businesses from all these different places. And if I was having to manually book appointments and do all those different things and send people different links here and there, I just honestly, people just come to my website and book calls and get on and opt in and all of those things. And it's just a beautiful thing when it works, and it can work. And then it just frees up your time to think about bigger ideas and serve your clients or go on vacation more and all those things. So it's a tool in your business as well.
I love that. So true.
Yeah.
Just to help. I mean, that whole automation process that a website can do is pretty remarkable.
Yep. Yeah,
And
for sure.
whether that be booking directly from a calendar.
Mhm.
And here's, I find that many people are not aware that you can integrate, like many of our mutual clients, our shared audience, they use applications such as Practice Better,
Yep.
right? Or
Yep.
Healthy. And interestingly, sometimes my clients are not yet aware that you can integrate that application right onto your website for like scheduling,
Yep.
doing like an application or some kind of an intake form before you get on the phone with them, like
Yep.
all of those things, so that you're not, emailing back and forth and in the process, potentially losing people.
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
that is super, super important. Like if there's a bunch of back and forth, a whole bunch of steps, the chance of them just saying, oh my God, this is like, forget about it, it's too cumbersome.
Yeah.
Or just even the chance that they don't get an email, right? Like
Right.
all of those things can happen. So what you're at risk for is losing the lead, right?
Yes. Yep.
So I think a good website really helps minimize that risk.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And they could go to someone else who has a better system,
Exactly.
So, and it's not that that person's better than you, but they were able to move more quickly and, do everything on their own. So,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
covered all 8, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. That was super helpful. Hopefully you guys took notes and got a lot of value out of those 8 big reasons why you need a website. So let's move into a conversation around, what are some steps forward that you would recommend? For
Mhm.
example, where should a practitioner start if they, after hearing our conversation today, they realize they need a website. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe they have a website, but it's not very good. How would you recommend that they move forward?
Yeah. So there are some basics that I'll mention, and then I'll also talk about what I have to offer, which I think can really provide a lot of clarity and guidance as well. So um, I would say number one, get clear on your customer. And even if you think you've gotten clear on your customer, I would revisit and I have some downloads on my website. I'm sure you may have some practices and exercises for people as well about how to really detail your ideal customer,
Mhm.
because that drives the copy. And we've talked about a lot how important the copy is on the website. So before you start playing with templates and going into Squarespace or looking at different web designers sample websites or anything like that, make sure that you are very clear on your customer. And even if you've gone through that exercise 6 months ago, we learn things about our
Yeah.
customers all the time. So I think it's always worthwhile before moving into anything is to do that. So that's just first. And then really make sure you're clear on your services and what you want your sales process to be for each one of those services, because we need to know that in order to lay it out clearly on the website. And if
Mhm.
you're still figuring out, well, how do I want the flow and the funnel for my course to launch? Do I want a discovery call, or do I want them to get on a wait list? Is it evergreen or is it
Mhm.
live? Like, when am I launching it? That all needs to be taken care of offline before
Right.
you put it on your website. Otherwise, it's going to feel all very overwhelming and end up being disjointed because you didn't come in with a clear picture.
Right.
Um, so then I would use those two things, the clarity on your customer and the clarity on your services and your sales process, to then drive the strategy for your website. So how many pages you need, the types of copy that you need on the different pages, what systems you need to integrate within the website, what opt-in you're going to put. Definitely have an opt-in, but use your ideal customer and their pain points to drive what opt-in you want. So those are the things that I would think about and start with. And that really transcends any kind of website you're creating on any kind of platform that you're creating. Those are the key things to start with.
Mhm.
And I would say, so I have a masterclass coming up actually that I'm going over the specifics of these different things like copy and brand and systems and all of that, that you really need to have on your website in order for it to be effective. And I give a lot of examples and to really help visualize that, because I know it can be tough to hear, okay, I need great copy, but what does that mean? And
Right.
like, what does great brand mean? So I encourage people, and I think we'll share that link,
Yeah.
to go through that and just really understand the mistakes that dietitians are making on their websites. And I'll go through in that webinar how to do it the right way so that you have an effective website at the end of the day.
That sounds great. And I do want to share that link. And I highly recommend that everyone grab this link, go ahead, save your seat so that you can dig in more to these concepts with Whitney. So
Yeah.
go to, now guys, this is a bit.ly link.
Yeah.
And it's bit.ly/Whitney website. Tried to make it easy.
Yeah.
Just make sure you use capital W. So capital W for Whitney and then capital W for websites. And it's plural. So
Plural. Yep.
bit.ly/Whitney websites. Okay.
Yes. Yep. And you'll
So
get to a page and you'll see a few different options to register. We're offering the master class in a few different dates in September. So yeah.
okay, great. Okay, so you're going to offer it a few different dates.
Yep.
Okay. Now, is this going to be live?
It will be live.
Okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
come with your questions.
Okay. Fantastic. I love
Yeah.
live. A lot of people don't do live anymore. So
I know.
kudos to
Yeah.
you on that. I
Thank
think
you.
live is the way to go. Pretty much all my
Yeah.
stuff is live. So yeah.
Yeah.
I just think people learn more and you get a chance to interact. And guys, here's the thing. We all have the best of intentions when it comes to listening to recordings, right?
Yeah.
We all do. The reality is you're not very likely to actually listen to the recording. So go ahead, jump on this opportunity. Again, bit.ly/Whitney websites, capital W's, and show up, right? Try to show up so you can get your questions answered.
Yeah.
That
Great.
sounds great. So, any final words of wisdom or any kind of wrapping, final words that you want to share as we start to wrap up today?
Well, first off, thank you. I had so much fun again. And
Always fun to connect with you, Whitney.
yeah, and I would just say, just start simply, because, okay, you're convinced now that you need a website, but now there might be a lot of overwhelm happening in terms of, oh my gosh, how am I going to make this work?
Okay.
And I think the inspiration that you've given, Leslie, about you can start with just one page or just a few pages, and that can still get you very far.
Yeah.
I think is really great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just add, if you guys need help in some of those, early decision-making things, like who is your ideal client? What are your services? I can definitely help you with that. So don't be hesitant. I'd love for you to reach out to me as well, because I can certainly help you navigate through all of those things, which honestly is not always easy. Like, doesn't it sound easy? Like, figure out who your ideal client is, right?
Yeah.
But the challenge is, and I know because I've been here or I've been there, is we love working with everybody. And so it's really, really hard to kind of narrow that down into what I would call a profitable niche.
Yeah.
So, and then let alone figuring out, what your packages look like, right? What should I include? How many sessions? What's the frequency? Like all those things.
Yep.
So yeah, if you do find yourself stuck in that arena, definitely reach out. And then I think Whitney said she has some content on her website as well that, might be super helpful in helping you move forward.
Yes.
So, all right, guys. So I'm just going to share that link one more time, bit.ly/Whitney websites, and make sure you save your seat for her upcoming webinars. And I think you're going to learn a ton and get a chance to get your questions answered as well. All right.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you so very much for joining us today. I hope you learned a ton. And I'll look forward to seeing you same time, same place next week. All right. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.